A memorial that stands as witness to a crime. Children were among the 28 people killed in an Israeli strike that brought down a building in southern Lebanon in 2006. 6-year-old Zainab's life cut short in the last major confrontation between Israel and Hezbollah.
I began to look for Zainab. She was sleeping next to her brother, and then I found a small hand. Her body was covered with rubble. I kissed her hand.
Qana has seen its share of tragedy. 18 years on, Hezbollah and Israel are again at war. Qana is still outside the battleground of the latest conflict, lying some 12 kilometers from the border.
If Israel is to launch a full-blown war with Lebanon, not like what is happening now, it will suffer heavy blows at the hands of Hezbollah.
Maryam survived what's known here as the first Qana massacre. She lost 18 members of her family. Ali, like Maryam, survived the 1996 Israeli bombing that killed more than 100 civilians, taking shelter at a UN peacekeeping base. At the age of 8, he saw images that are etched in his memory.
I still remember watching people being burned alive in that tent. I remember the voice of the woman who was screaming while she was being burned alive. I remember seeing an infant without a head.
Ali explains how experiences like these create resilience and the will to fight back. This Israeli tank is a reminder of a long conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. The Lebanese armed group takes credit for ending Israel's 18-year occupation of southern Lebanon in the year 2000. There have been several rounds of violence since. The not-so-distant sound of bombs, warplanes breaking sound barriers, are all too familiar for the people here.
Of course, there is concern and fear, but we have an ideology, and it's not easy to force us to leave our homes.
Defiance at a time of escalating threats by Israel that could change the magnitude of the conflict. Zeina, Khodr, Jazeera, Qana, southern Lebanon.
Let's bring in Imad Salamey. He's an associate professor of international affairs at the Lebanese American University and joins us now from Beirut. Mr. Salamey, good to have you with us on the programme. The launching of these rockets and bombs from southern Lebanon, is this just retaliation for the death of that senior commander killed by Israel earlier this week? Or is this sort of the build-up to the ongoing message to Israel from Hezbollah that we're not going to back down on Gaza, we're not going to back down if you kill our personnel, and we're not going to back down if you threaten Beirut or Lebanon as a whole?
Yes, as you said, this is a serious escalation despite what we've been seeing in the past few days in terms of diplomatic efforts to cool down the situation on the southern borders. But of course, Hezbollah is demonstrating once again, after 10 months of this war, that it is infrastructure and its ability to wage major attacks against Israel remains intact, remains capable of inflicting serious damage against Israeli military bases and towns on the south of Lebanon. It's demonstrating that Hezbollah will not sit silent whenever its commanders are assassinated and targeted. And this is kind of sending clear messages to Israel that there is no free ride in Lebanon, that whenever Israel will hit Lebanon, the responses from Hezbollah are going to be serious, going to be damaging to Israeli towns and military bases. And it is demonstrating from this coordinated attack using drones and missiles, launching more than 250 missiles and drones in the same 2 hours, that's capable.
Can I just jump in there? Sir? Because it also sends another message, doesn't it? It talks about really how much of this is about Hezbollah showing its military capacity, as you just touched upon, and the intelligence gathering capability that it also has. It was only last month when we saw those Hezbollah drones infiltrate Israeli space and head to Haifa. that alarmed Tel Aviv, but it also showed us that Hezbollah is sending a message of look how far we can get and we can fly under your radar.
100%. And this is keeping Israel continuously calculating and recalculating any of its military plans for attacking and waging a wider war in Lebanon. So in many ways, this is restraining Israel from taking a more aggressive positions in Lebanon, knowing fully that any Hezbollah retaliation going to be extremely costly to Israel, and any military attack against Israel, against Hezbollah, will not really achieve military objectives, nor gain Israel any political stance.
No, it's going to cause a bit of a problem, isn't it? And raise concerns for these two, you might say, warring factions and their allies. From Israel's perspective, Washington is going to be concerned that it doesn't want to see an escalation. It's trying to de-escalate in Gaza. It's also got a presidential election that's ongoing. Iran, on the other hand, is a supporter of Israel. It too has a presidential election. It too doesn't want to see an escalation. And these two capitals will be wondering what the next move is by their, you might say, allies in the region as they keep hitting each other with missiles or bombs one way or the other.
Yes, absolutely. I think both sides have reached a situation of a stalemate after 10 months of fighting, with neither side is capable of achieving any military gains on the ground, nor to gain politically. This comes also at the same time, like you mentioned, there is an election going on in Iran, early election for the president, and Iran is a major actor in this war, supporting Hezbollah. So I think Iran doesn't want a widening of this war either, because a wider war may involve Iran and may drag it into an uncalculated war with the high costs. Also, Israel has the same concerns on United States, like you mentioned, is placing extreme pressure on Israel not to be engaged in a wider war. There are European pressure on Israel not to be engaged in a wider war. There are domestic pressures. We've seen fragmentation in the Israeli cabinet. There is a split. Lapid, the leader of the opposition, pulled out from government. Gallant, the Minister of Defense, went to the United States and heard it from the United States administration that the U.S. is not interested in widening this war. Also, Netanyahu has a planned visit to the United States, and I don't think Netanyahu wants to go in the midst of American election with a widening of the war that is not really popular among the young people in the United States or among the general public in the United States. So, there are significant pressure on both sides, international, regional, and domestic, not to engage in a wider war without, it pretty much will be without much calculation being put to it.
We shall see what happens certainly in the coming hours, maybe also the coming days. For the moment, it's been good to speak to you, Imad Salamey there from the Lebanese American University in Beirut. Thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.